What are some of the primary Mussar Sfarim books that are utilized today? And previously, the Rav had mentioned that there was a negative response coming out of Volozhin, but yet Volozhin and Mavchaim Volozhin is Nefesh HaChaim, which is a Mussar Sefer. So what are some of the Mussar Sfarim that are used, and how does that relate to a Sefer like Nefesh HaChaim?
It's very, very interesting that in many, many ways, Rav Chaim Volozhiner and the Vilna Gaon himself are in some ways the fathers of the Mussar movement. In the case of Rabbi Yisrael, this is very, very clear. Rabbi Yisrael was influenced by Rav Zundel of Salant, who talked about the importance of Mussar. Rav Zundel of Salant was a Talmud Muvak of Rav Chaim Volozhiner. Rav Chaim Volozhiner was the Talmud Muvak of the Vilna Gaon. So clearly there was this Messiah of Mussar. The very first sefer of the Vilna Gaon that was printed after his death was the Perish HaGra al Mishlei, not the Gra on Shulchan Aruch and not the Gra on Kabbalah, but on Mishlei. And the reason was because Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem, and Mishlei is a sefer, and the Gra's Perish and Mishlei is a sefer. That is a book of Mussar. Indeed, it is a book of Mussar and the like. But I'm told that Nefesh HaChaim itself was not studied in Volozhin and Yeshiva. Strange as that sounds, because the Iker emphasis was on Limud HaTorah itself. But in terms of what are the Sifrei Mussar, again, there are many, many Sifrei Mussar, and the new ones are produced all the time. First of all, there's a whole genre of Mussar literature that predates Rabbi Yisrael Salant, right? He didn't invent the genre of Mussar literature. We have the Chovas Halubavos going back to the 10th century, or the 11th century. We have the Mesilas Yesharim of the Ramchal. We have the Orchos Tzadikim. Many, many Sfarim from the Rishonim, the Sharei Tshuva and other Sfarim of Rabbeinu Yonah, right? So these are from Rishonim themselves, a great Sifrei Mussar. But from Rabbi Yisrael, we have the Or Yisrael, which is really put out by Rabbi Vitzel Petterberger. In fact, there's not that much of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter's own words there, but essentially a lot of Rabbi Yisrael's Torah is there. And then later we have Sfarim from the Altar of Kelm, and the great Talmidim of the Altar of Kelm, which is Michtav Me'Eliyahu, Rav Dessler. He was not, well, his father was a Talmud of the Altar of Kelm. Dessler is already 2 generations. But Michtav Me'Eliyahu itself is a very, very interesting. It is one of the most popular Mussar Sfarim that people learn, but some of the Baalei Mussar contended it was not pure Mussar, because Michtav Me'Eliyahu is a philosophical book, number one, and number two, it also draws on Hasidus and Kabbalah. And the classical Rabbi Yisrael Salanter Mussar did not really borrow from Hasidus, and certainly did not, at least openly, use Kabbalah. So Rav Dessler, maybe I shouldn't say it this way, was actually considered a little bit of a traitor to the purity of the Mussar movement. But I think he was certainly faithful to the ultimate objective. If the ultimate objective of Mussar is to bring people to his slavos in Avodas Hashem, then it's understood that there may be different particular ways of doing it, depending on the Tzorech Hador. So Rav Dessler brought in Maharal, Dessler brought in Rav Tzadok, Rav Dessler brought in Sfas Emes, Rav Dessler brought in Tanya, as it were, besides Nefesh HaChaim and Chovos Halubavos and all of the standard Mussar books. So Rav Dessler is one of the most popular, and of course Rav Dessler's great Talmud, Rav Chaim Friedlander, continued in that Mahalach, and those are very, very excellent books. But again, they go a little bit beyond the pure Mussar, because they embrace general inyanim of hashkafa, which are very, very important. And then you have Rav Wolbe, the Alei Shor. So those are just a few of the great Sfarim that we have. And as I say, you will find that they do integrate different streams more so than perhaps the older Mussar Sfarim did.